After a week off for the 4th of July, the dark horse NDCar drivers are ready to go back racing, and tonight it is under the lights at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Good evening, everybody, as we are here for 150 laps at this mile-and-a-half speedway. Drivers here this evening in the home stretch for the championship here in the FART NDCar Series. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez. And Matt, another speedway, much like we ended up having the last time these drivers took to the track at Auto Club, a multi-groove type racetrack. Maybe not quite as fast, but what do we think? Track position, pit strategy, what's going to be the deciding factor in this one?
I'm definitely going to go out and straight away say it. If we can keep it green, it's going to be pit strategy, but really determines this whole thing. It has higher banks than a lot of the tracks we went to earlier this season, but again, with it being so small, I imagine it's being kind of a strategy kind of thing.
We have a smaller field here tonight. Taylor Jordan picking up the pole position on Charles Teed. 13 drivers going to take the green flag here tonight, which kind of says to me, plan for long runs, plan for green flag strategy here right at the get-go, I would say.
Absolutely. It's more or less, hey, try to get your track position early, take advantage of these restarts, and then hope when a caution comes out, you just got to keep being aggressive.
A couple of notables not in the field tonight. We'll document them as we get underway here. Taylor Jordan, that inside advantage. Whoa!
Got a little bit of assistance. It looks like Sheridan Wade. I think that may have been Matt Wagner on that restart.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't know if there was a little gap whack that came into play, but it almost looked like maybe the 63 of A.J. Hobson, who's now up into the third position, might have made a little bit of contact with the left side of Sheridan Wade. Nice save by all drivers involved. That could have very quickly been our first caution. Turn one, lap one.
That's kind of the great thing is, hey, these cars have a lot of downforce, so when it does start kind of stepping out on you, hey, congratulations, the car will usually catch itself as long as you don't overcorrect and send it straight into the fence.
Taylor Jordan looking for his third win on the season. He right now has two. Won the last time we were on the racetrack at Auto Club. That closed up the gap between him and Eric Schaus for the points lead. Schaus currently P1, but only 27 points up on Taylor Jordan, and Jordan got the pole tonight. Eric Schaus rolled off from the 10th position, so a little bit behind the 8 ball on the start here for Eric Schaus, our winner from Road America. We'll see if he's able to work his way up here through the field, get back up into the same zip code as the 802.
So I'm going to ask you, we have this question every single week. Would you rather be the lead car or the follow car here?
I think probably as things are looking right now, I want to be that lead car. I know it uses up more fuel, but I want to have control of the line that I want to have when I go into the corner. See A.J. Hobson going to make the pass there, but I just don't want to deal with the dirty air if somebody's running the same line that I'm running. I have to then do something different, and maybe my car's not going to be all that comfortable running a different line.
Yeah, I think we saw that last season, I think with Luis Gonzalez-Nunez, actually. Or was it Luis at New Hampshire?
Oh, yeah.
He ended up dominating the entire race. The moment he got behind another car, it just drove differently, and I think he put it in the fence.
I think if I remember correctly, he was kind of running the middle line most of that race, and when he meant to make a pass on the inside of somebody, he just wasn't ready for the lack of rear grip and bended up into the outside wall. Looks like at least here for the early going, a lot of these drivers that are making the moves down to the inside to make passes for the lead are sticking pretty well, but we have to also remember, much like we ended up having at Auto Club and at Michigan, we talked about this, that as that fuel cell starts to empty, the back end of the car starts to get a little bit lighter, so off of 2 and off of 4 later on in the run, it's going to be a little bit sketchier for these drivers in terms of if that rear grip is going to be there or not.
And oddly enough, I'm kind of looking at, wow, he just steps out just a little bit. But that's really how you're going to see passes done tonight, where you're going to see guys really dive it into 1 or dive it into 3, all the way on the bottom, and they're going to slowly slide up the track, hoping to clear that top car because it can't exactly hold it on that bottom lane.
Yeah, Teed was absolutely slideways that last time through 3 and 4. A lot more spanking space here at Homestead than there is at some other mile-and-a-half racetracks, so plenty of space for him to be able to gather it back up and hold the court on that top side against Taylor Jordan, not giving up for this race lead. Will Roberts right behind them in the 31. He ended up jumping into the server only about 30 seconds before practice came to a close, so not able to have a whole lot of track time. Former winner this season back at New Hampshire. Will's one of those drivers that is trying to kind of get the late season surge. He had a really good start to the year, has hit a bit of a slump ever since Road America. He comes into this race 6th in overall points, 60 points out, still mathematically has a shot with the number of races we've got left, but I look at some of these drivers, like a Will Roberts, like a Najee Camargo, Charles T, drivers that have been a little bit inconsistent. They've had a good run followed up by a bad run. Now I think is the point where you have to start putting consistent runs together if you're going to be in the hunt for that championship, because we know that other drivers like Schaus and Taylor Jordan, they've been consistent. You can't rely on the fact that each week you do well, they're not going to do well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, but the next biggest thing is not to get in your own head. I mean, like I said, I've been in that situation before where you're looking at the points, you're running numbers like, okay, well, I need to do this track. He needs to have this happen at this track. It's one of those times where it's really good just to kind of put all that away and just run your own race. I mean, you're never going to get those point situations out of your head, but it's more or less don't focus on them. Just run your own race.
Tell you who's on the move right now. That's Jeff Hysong. He's been a consistent driver this season, started 11th of 4 spots to the 7th position. Hysong comes into this race 4th in overall points, 47 points out, and have a good run tonight. He could be up inside the top 3. We documented the last couple of weeks, J.W. Miller, 2-time winner of the season, won the first 2 races on the year. Conspicuously missing from the field. He's dropped numerous spots in the standings since then. 7th in points coming into tonight. And another driver that is missing from tonight's field is Craig Forsyth. He was 3rd in overall points, only 1 point ahead of Hysong. So Hysong more than likely will be up inside of the top 3 if he can put together yet another good consistent run here tonight.
And that's the thing where really everyone else's disadvantage is your advantage, and you can kind of just start reeling them back here in points. It's kind of those, hey, it's great they're not here, but it's okay, that technically pulls some opposition away from me.
We've had a couple of racetracks here, 3 of the 4, I guess we could say, the last tracks that we've run, including tonight. I would say here, Auto Club Pocono, kind of drivers' tracks, opportunity for drivers to kind of control their own destiny. Road America, there's drivers that love the road courses, and there's drivers that don't like the road courses, so we'll kind of leave that as an anomaly of the last couple of tracks that we've run. But if you look at tonight, Homestead, and the tracks we've got on the horizon, I would say until we get to Kentucky, that's the span of Texas, Gateway, and Daytona, this is the last driver's track that these drivers will have until we get to the month of August.
And like I said, Texas is always a hit and miss track for me, because Texas is, like I said, it's been dragged with its reconfiguration. It's gone through some profile changes, but I think with the IRL1 cars, it's going to be a little bit more grippy, and I think it's going to be a lot more 2 and 3 wide. Although it could also be, hey, it's kind of going to be the same as Homestead is here tonight, where it's predominantly 1 lane, and then that other lane is used for passing, or hey, you're planning to slide up in front of another guy.
Watching a lot of these guys here as they're getting passes made on them for the lead, whether it be Hobson taking a turn at the front, or Charles T, or Taylor Jordan. That car that's getting passed, they enter in middle, let the car drift up towards the outer groove. A couple of times, they've gotten pretty close to that outside wall. These are open-wheel race cars. They're not as durable as a stock car. I'd be a little concerned that I might be going just a little too high up there in the corner. You don't want to overstep that cushion, brush the wall, and have some early damage.
It's really that fine line of, you want to use all the track available. You want to take advantage of the entire racing surface, but hey, that wall is not a racing surface. So it's measuring risk versus reward. How much gain are you getting out of doing that wide arc?
I've seen at Auto Club green flag pit stops. They certainly played a factor in the outcome of that race. As things are standing right now, 20 laps under our belt, you'd have to think that these drivers will probably have to be making green flag pit stops. I'd say, I don't know exactly what the fuel window is for these guys, but if we kind of go back to the last 1.5-mile racetrack we were at, which was at, actually no, we haven't been to 1.5 miles. I was going to say, I thought we were at a 1.5-mile track, and I thought the fuel window was like 40 to 45 laps, so...
I believe you're thinking Milwaukee.
I think that's probably where I am thinking of. So we'll see. We'll see what the fuel window is for these guys. I think it's the 2-mile racetracks where it's about 30 laps they can go. So a little generous. Put another 10, 15 laps on here for the 1.5-mile racetrack. Hysong continues to march to the front. Now up 6 positions to the 5th spot. Is this just a case of knowing how to control the slipstream, control the draft? I think someone just got the wall there. Going into 3, saw some sparks, and that might have been Will Roberts.
Yeah, I think Will kind of missed his entry to that corner, went up a little bit high into the track. Got the wall just a little bit. Doesn't look like there's any damage, but just going to slow him down just a little bit.
It might have maybe been that that right rear tire, maybe just making a little contact with the outside wall, but don't see any visible damage on the 31. But back to Hysong. Is this just that he's naturally fast, he's able to control the draft, or has he been able to preserve his tires here for the long run, which has given him this durability to continue to move forward? As again, another car just got the wall a little bit. That was Matt Wagner in the 3. Hobson, T, Taylor Jordan, they're racing hard up here at the front, back and forth for the lead. Jeff Hysong's kind of been able to pick and choose his battles.
Yeah, I think Hysong is kind of...
Oh, another one in the wall back there. Sorry to cut you off. That was Sheridan Wade. We're starting to see a number of drivers knocking down the outside wall now.
So it makes me wonder if that right front is starting to burn off here, because you're noticing how hard these guys are pushing in the corners. And I've noticed some guys not doing that natural arc up the track I saw Taylor Jordan do earlier. They've been holding on the bottom. I wondered if those tires have started to end up just fading a little bit.
So what can you do to make sure that the car is not going to push up into the wall again? Or have you already kind of made your bed and have to lie in it here? Obviously, you don't want to back your pace down, because much like the 2-mile and 2.5-mile racetracks we've been to, it's all about momentum. You start lifting a little bit more, going a little bit more gingerly into the corner, there's going to be a whole bunch of drivers wanting to take advantage. Is there any option to try and cool down that right front?
Well, good and bad news. Bad news is your tires are hot, and really there's no good way to cool them down here on this track. You could end up trying to slow down your pace a little bit, try to take maybe a less aggressive line into the corner, but you're going to be sacrificing a lot of your race pace trying to cool it back down. It happens.
Oh! On board with Charles Teague. You see him. I'm sorry, that's AJ Hobson we're on board with, and he gets out of shape into the outside wall. He was battling for the lead. No caution as that car never went completely around. But you saw the hand motion inside the cockpit of the number 63. Big save there out of turn 4.
And there was no contact. I think maybe it just would have been the error off of the right side of Charles Teed. Just threw right enough onto that car where it just ended up losing the rear end grip and popped into the wall. Doesn't look like there's any huge suspension damage on the car, but he decided to bring it in just for safety.
Also a pit stop by the 12 of Arturo Mayorga. We saw him have a great run in his debut back at Road America. Followed it up with a decent run at Auto Club. We were wondering, after seeing his road course skills, how it would translate to speedway racing, but early issues for him. He's returned to the track, but he's a lap down. We saw Hobson have to make that unscheduled pit stop, as well as another car. That was Matt Wagner. Little brush with the outside wall there in the second position. A little bit of sparks flying off of his number 3 as he'll dive to the inside. And one thing we saw there, Matt, when AJ Hobson dove onto pit road, that these drivers are also going to have to do when and if they make green flag pit stops. Got to take that access road on the entrance to turn number 3. How sketchy is that going to be? Because that's flat. There's no banking.
Realistically, it's not as sketchy on new tires, but when you're on worn tires of a low fuel cell, oh, Hysong's on the wall.
Yes, he is. He didn't get off of it until about midway through 3 and 4. Dropped him from 5th all the way back to, well, 7th now in a battle for that position. That Sheridan Wade on the inside.
And I will say these cars do look a lot more solid on that top line, but it's how far are you willing to kind of push that game to go all the way up and gain that full advantage, because they do lose on entry, but the run that you get on exit, oh my goodness, Matt Wagner almost lost the back end.
Yeah, you saw him really loosen. Is that because we're starting to get to the point where the fuel tank's getting emptier, the back end's getting lighter, it's not as much maneuverability for these guys off the corner?
I think it's really, it's all that you said, plus aero, plus tires. Like I said, those do end up taking a toll after a little while. Man, Teed is ringing it out.
Take a look at our weather conditions here tonight as well. Ambient temperature 71, the track temp just a few degrees higher. Cool track conditions, hot tires. That's a recipe for it being a little bit slick as well.
The cold track, and most people won't consider 70 degrees cold, but on a actual track surface, that is cold. I'm more used to around like 90, 100-ish degrees, and that's usually what you consider pretty toasty. So seeing these drivers kind of combat these conditions, that's going to be something that kind of progresses into the entirety of the race.
Well, with a couple of drivers there in the last 5 to 7 laps getting into the wall, it's now become a 6-car breakaway at the front of the field. Matt Wagner, now the race leader, teed in second. Boy, he has himself a gearbox full of Will Roberts in that battle for the second spot. We're going to go 3 wide into turn 1. Those things are on edge when they're double wide. I'm not necessarily certain 3 wide's a good idea, but it looks like both Roberts and Teed, they had their wits about them. They used their heads. They backed out of that situation.
Will thought better of it. Will was ready to send in their bottom 3, and he looked at the 2 cars in top like, I don't know about this.
Also Taylor Jordan, Eric Schaus, Eric Peterson in this top 6. So Eric Schaus is now closed in on the 802, and it was interesting because we ended up talking with Eric after the Auto Club race, and we asked him what is the goal here down this final stretch of races. Is it to continue to try and find victory lane? That was close between Teed and Jordan. Or is it try to manage the gap? Look at Schaus. He never lifted. He closed in on those top 3 and almost thought about going up the gut 3 wide. Only in that 4th spot, we asked him, do you go for more wins? Do you try and manage the gap between yourself and Taylor Jordan? And he says, well, a little bit of both, depending on the situation. Right now, I think he is in race win mode because all these guys are having to check up out of shape, and he's closing in on each and every one of them.
And easily, if you want the good comparison of what these low fuel kind of situations are looking like and what these worn tires are looking like, look no further than Charles Teed, because he has been someone who has been very adamant about using that high lane. And what he usually does whenever someone sends it on the bottom of 3 is he'll go all the way from that high lane, about midway through 3 and 4, he'll cut aggressively down to that bottom line to do the crossover as they're sliding up. Last time he tried to do that, he about lost the back end, but it just isn't fighting for him.
On board with Eric Schaus, who takes the race lead away from Charles Teed, or does he? You saw there on the right side of the screen, Teed battling back on the top side. Oh, and Teed's in the wall. The middle of 3 and 4, and that's going to drop him all the way back at least to 5th. He's going to lose more spots as momentum lost. It's going to be interesting to see, like, what is the question? We've seen drivers brush the wall. Is there damage sustained, or is there just momentum lost? It looks like Taylor Jordan dove for pit road. He's disappeared from our screens. He was down on the apron, looking like he was going to come to pit road, unless maybe he was having some technical problems on his end and was just trying to get out of harm's way. But as of right now, he is currently not on the racetrack, at least with our live feed.
And I just heard a little bit from Matt Wagner. He, at least it sounds like all the drivers are just hanging on for dear life.
Certainly looks like it for sure, is maybe within the window now of drivers in the next 5 laps or so heading for pit road. I think it's safe to say that these drivers, they're going to be wanting tires just as much as they are fuel with what we've seen here. The tires to be able to give you that grip going into the corner, the fuel to be able to weigh down the back of the car for corner exit.
So what you're saying is gas and go.
No, that is not what I'm saying.
But that actually does beg the question a little bit. Which one of these tires are really wearing? Because obviously, it seems like a combination of both, because these cars naturally get light as the fuel cells start running out. But the tires hasn't been a huge conversation, a huge talking point in the last few weeks. But as we go on to this, with it being more banked and more pressures being put onto those right sides, that's where I'm thinking a majority of the wear is ending up coming in. But what I'm more concerned about, maybe not wear, is actually tire temp on the right sides. It's just getting too hot and not being able to grip. And then, by extension, then wearing out the left sides because it's using that to catch the car.
Yeah. Yep, I think you're absolutely right. And, some of these half spins that we've seen of drivers going up and brushing the wall, that's just going to put more temperature into that right rear, so exacerbates the loose condition when you're coming off of the corner. As Will Roberts now out in front. Mentioned the fact that we've had a couple of multiple-time winners on the season. Taylor Jordan, 2-time winner, as well as J.W. Miller. Yet to have a 3-time winner, but We got a couple of candidates up here that could be the third two-time winner on the season. Roberts in the lead and Eric Schaus there in second place. How about Najee Camargo and DL Lemon? While we've seen some drivers have some issues here, they're now up into the top 5. Now, should make mention that a couple of drivers have dove onto pit road in the last 5 laps. Sheridan Wade was on pit road back on lap 42. Jeff Heisong was on pit road back on lap 41. I'm not certain if they were regularly scheduled pit stops, though, because we saw Heisong into the wall not too long before he dove onto pit lane, and Sheridan Wade was up into the wall at some point in this race as well, so might have been out of necessity rather than just like fuel window strategy.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing a lot of guys. I just saw Charles Teed about maybe a lap or two ago. He was entering the corner about 220 and just lost it on the bottom line and slid him all the way down. It's really how aggressive can you push and still make it grip. And I think two guys who have kind of been under driving the car a little bit and have taken advantage of that, Aspe, Carmago, and Lemon, just because they're not pushing the car exactly to its limits, whether it be just out of, hey, trying to save the car or just not being that comfortable with the car. They're not pushing it to its limits, so they're able to kind of conserve tires or able to kind of drive the car within a little bit longer of a boundary.
Taylor Jordan returning back onto the racetrack, so I'm assuming he probably fell out of the server, and he, as a result, has fallen 8 laps down into the 13th position. You saw Charles Teed on pit road. He's just now getting his service, and he'll be down and away. Eric Peterson now on pit road as well in the 36, so I think this kind of throws the gauntlet down for other drivers up inside of your top 5, top 6. They're probably going to be on pit road pretty shortly, so they went a little bit further than what I projected as far as a fuel window. Looks like about 50 to 55 laps they're able to go on a tank of fuel.
That's the thing, as I'm looking here. That pit road exit's also going to be an issue too, because if you're on those new tires, even with the added weight, it's a little bit slick, so you have to really watch how you're getting on throttle here. You probably have to leave pit road about 4th, 5th gear.
Didn't we have a previous race back in the Dark Horse Racing series where somebody ended up spinning, I believe, off of that access road, off of turn 1, ended up bringing out a late race caution, so that's a scenario that could end up happening here tonight.
It's the small things. It's the stuff that you really don't think about. Seeing Matt Wagner here on pit road or on the access road, it's a thing of you want to maximize your entry in, but again, you cannot set a tire on that grass or you will end up losing it. So he took it a little bit aggressively, kind of diving the access road. Now he's on pit road. My question is going to be, when you're going out of pit road, what are you really doing? What gear are you in? Like how gingerly are you trying to take out of the pit road?
Roberts, woo, actually almost spun it there after he got onto pit road. Not sure what was going on there, if he just doesn't have the rear grip as he got down to a lower gear, but it gives up the race lead to dive onto pit lane. DL11 going to show the way. Have to check back and see, this might be DL11's first time out in front this season in the FAR NDCar series, as Eric Schaus on pit road. We're also awaiting Joseph Morales, who was just now on the access road. He's heading for pit lane this time by. And you go back to the situation of Taylor Jordan, pretty unlikely that he's going to be back on the lead lap before the conclusion of this race. We've already run a third of this event under the green flag. There's a couple of drivers that are multiple laps down once we cycle things around after unscheduled pit stops in these first 50 laps. That's, going to be a pretty good sizable gap that Eric Schaus, provided he's able to have a decent finish here tonight, is going to have heading into our next race, which will be at Texas Motor Speedway. So,
and with how Texas I would like
if you're Schaus, do you force the issue? If you're running in second or third place and you see the top 2 up ahead of you in the closing stages, do you force the issue to try and get that checkered flag, or do you say, you know what, 3rd place points is good. I got 10 positions up on my closest competitor coming into tonight. I'm just going to sit back on these points.
See, I'm usually in that point of, hey, let's not worry about it. Let's not push the issue. But, I mean, hey, we're still within around mid-ish season, and we still have a good way to go. I would 100% be, let's throw caution to the wind. Let's go. So let's end up racing the doors off of it. Let's try to get as big as a gap as we can. Now, obviously, if you do start pushing and the car does start stepping out, or you don't feel comfortable with the car, okay, let's just bring it back down. Let's go get our third place points. But, hey, this is the perfect time where a little bit of aggressiveness now will make my job maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road. It'll make my life 10 times easier.
Will Roberts cycles out to the race lead after our first round of green flag pit stops. The timing of these pit stops says to me, I think they got one more pit stop they'll have to make before the conclusion of this race. We continue to run green here tonight at the Homestead Miami Speedway. We're going to step aside for a commercial break. We'll be back here in just a few moments to continue the action from Homestead, but you're not going to miss a thing because we're going FRN side by side. The following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flat Out Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. Welcome back to the Flat Out Racing Network's coverage of Race 7 of the Dark Horse Racing Series FART NDCar Series. Here under the lights at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Got our first round of green flag pit stops cycled through. Will Roberts, the race leader, and he's got a pretty hefty gap, almost 5 seconds back to Matt Wagner. Sheridan Wade right now in the third position, but he's a bit off sequence on pit strategy. He'll be having to come to pit road in the next 25 laps or so, while just about everybody else is going to be able to go another 40 laps on what they've got in the tank. Also, Sheridan Wade, I'm not necessarily certain he can make it the rest of the way on one more pit stop. He might have to make a second stop before all is said and done, so he'll need a caution to kind of muddy the waters and help get his strategy back on track. Had 13 drivers take the green flag here tonight. 12 of them continue on. 10 of them on the lead lap. The only retiree, the 63 of A.J. Hobson. And if you're just joining us, our second in points, two-time winner on the season, winner from our last time out at Auto Club, Taylor Jordan, ran into some connection problems. He's down in the 12th position, last car running 6 laps down. So not going to be a good points night for him, as he was only 27 points behind Eric Schaus for the points lead coming into this evening.
You kind of want a throwback here. The last time that Dark Horse went to any Texas track was the 2009 Legacy version of Texas in Season 4, where surprisingly enough,
Wow.
Nick DeGroot won the pole, and Matt Wagner, who still is racing, he got the race win there.
Next week, we're going back to Texas Motor Speedway, but I'm assuming it's the newly reconfigured one. We should go back to the 09 one.
The 09. I don't think the 09 one's going to play very nicely with these cars.
Well, you make a good point, but
it's a little bit more.
I'm also a little nervous about that banking going into turn 1 with the new configuration as well.
I mean, I think I'd rather have that banking going into 1 than that giant bump at the bottom of 1.
That is a fair point.
And just shooting a car up the hill. It's all fun and games till you hit that when you're not planning to. It just shoots the car 3 lanes up and like, oh, okay. We're going up now.
We're going to give an update here in a few moments on Sheridan Wade. Noticed him starting to drop on the telemetry. I'm not certain if he's also dealing with connection problems, much like Taylor Jordan in the start of this race, or not.
Yeah, it looks
like he was running in the 3rd position and was still about 20 laps out from when he was going to have to make a green flag pit stop.
Yeah, it looks like he had some connection issues, ended up dropping out. I'm not sure if he's going to end up returning, but if he does return, he should, to my knowledge, get out before Taylor Jordan passes him.
Drivers end up getting points in numerous ways here in this series. If they drive a clean race and do not have any incident points, they end up getting bonus points. Also, the fastest lap of the race gets extra bonus points. And right now, I'd be headed in the direction of our points leader, Eric Schaus, 23.680. The fastest lap laid down so far here tonight. And as soon as I say that, just notice DL Lemon actually with a 23.631. Now best that 5/100ths faster. So how about that? He's had a pretty good night. Has DL Lemon had a couple of laps out in front, albeit with some strategy, but he's kept his nose clean. Has not gotten up in the outside wall, as a number of our front runners have done. And right now he is in the make it 6th position. He was in 7th, but just got around Jeff Hysong to take 1 step closer to the top 5. Now side by side with that is the lap car of Arturo Mayorga.
So he's had an interesting night. A lot of these guys, there's a lot of different stories about how people's nights have been going. Taylor Jordan's one of those guys who kind of an unfortunate night here thus far, where he was up there in the battle originally from the strop at the get-go and had some, looks like, connection issues, ended up dropping out, came back in, but he was 8 laps down, made it 6 now, but he's going to have to do a pit stop and probably give or take about 10, 15 laps. Then we have Sheridan Wade, which unfortunately he did drop out due to internet issues. I have not seen him come back in yet, so that's going to be a wait and see. And AJ Hobson, who did have that earlier contact.
Peterson make the pass on Jeff Hysong. Hysong's continuing to actually fall. Joseph Morales just got around him. Hysong, we saw he got up into the wall, had to make an unscheduled pit stop. It was about 15 laps earlier than most other drivers. I think this is a case of that damage maybe affecting him rather than tires. He did not take on his faster pair when he came to pit road. Only 2. Actually, he's having on to pit road again this time. This is, oh gracious, this is about 12. Oh, he's in the grass.
See,
going back up the racetrack there. Ooh,
now,
you talked about don't put a wheel wrong.
I don't know if that would be a black flag or not, because technically he did leave the access road, and technically that would be an unsafe entrance.
We'll see if he takes his faster pair on here. There's only 2 drivers taking on their faster pairs. AJ Hobson, who's out of the race, and DL Lemon. Everybody else still have their faster pair intact. In service right now is the 18. Najee Camargo is actually back on pit road here as well in the 59. Well, you know, here's something I'm going to bounce off of you as a possibility, because I remember that when we first started broadcasting this series, this was something that kind of caught me out, and I've had to adapt to it, is the fact that in the beginning stages of these open wheel races, usually these drivers can go to the optimal fuel window because they're all bunched together. They got the benefit of draft, but then when we get into a long green flag run like this and everything starts getting split up due to green flag pit stops, the fuel window lessens. Most of those drivers there that are coming to pit road, the 18 and the 59, are about 40 laps into their run. did the field getting spread out lessen the distance they can go by 10 laps?
I would say yes, actually, because again, now you're factoring in everyone's basically a lead car here. If you could find a lap car that is willing to kind of break the air for you, even if it's, let's say, a teammate of sorts who is willing to kind of stay in front of you and break that air, you could save realistically probably about 5 more laps and go a little bit longer on that tank. But again, you're going to have to kind of be staying with them the entire time, as I saw Charles Teed and DL Lemon almost get together.
At Wagner, he talked about the last time that our course went to Texas. He was the winner of that event. He's been able to catch Will Roberts. What was it? I think it said 4.5, 5 seconds was the gap between the 31 to the 3 once the pit stop cycled around. He was able to close up that distance, actually took the race lead away from Will Roberts for a moment. He could very well be heading back to Texas Motor Speedway next week as the defending winner from the previous week here tonight at Homestead, Miami. It was looking at first after this pit stop cycled around that it was the Will Roberts show, but now it looks like it's two that are tangoing for the top spot.
And easily so. And you got to kind of think about this here where Wagner's one of those sneaky guys where he has, you kind of go into this race knowing he has a plan. You just don't know how it's going to pan out, but he's usually there at the end.
Eric Peterson, noticed he was on pit road about 3 laps ago. He did not take on a faster pair, so I don't know if that was scheduled or not. Bear in mind, we knew that these drivers were going to have to make at least one more pit stop before the conclusion, but if the furthest they can go is 40 laps, and maybe, just maybe, this was going to be a 2-stop race from the outset, and maybe Eric Peterson feels that the pit stop he just made might be enough to get him to the conclusion. Might be going potentially with the 3-stop strategy here rather than the 2-stop. I don't know if that would necessarily gain you more than it would lose you, but it'd be interesting to be a fly on the wall down there of the 36 pit.
And I'm kind of noticing here that you've got Haisong in front of the 2 leaders. I'm wondering if it's kind of that point of, hey, this is kind of providing some draft, but I wonder if Roberts is kind of happy about that. Because on one hand, yeah, I mean, he's going to get the tow from Haisong, he's going to get some of the fuel savings out of it. But also, this is going to make his car cruise a little bit differently than what he's been used to the last few months.
Back to Matt Wagner. Get a big run here going into turn 1. Not going to do anything with it. Getting out the arrow screen of the 31 of Will Roberts to that car you were talking about, Jeff Haisong, who surprisingly, when he came to pit road, didn't take on the faster pair. We saw he was very much so off the pace. DL Lemon and Joseph Morales and Eric Peterson were able to kind of blow his doors off. But he spent extra time on pit road, got the car manually repaired, subsequently fell 3 laps down and in danger of going a 4th lap down if the 31 puts a move on him, which, as of right now, doesn't look like he has any plans of that. Might be trying to use that car, as you said, to save some fuel here, stretch it a little bit further on this run.
Now, here's my question. Since as we get later on in this fuel strategy, are we going to see the same fall off that we did earlier? Those tires really start to fall off, and that fuel cell really starts to kick in? Because I don't think we're going to start seeing that just because they have not been pushing as hard.
Interesting, you talk about fall off because you look at your top 2, and they're running anywhere from about maybe a tenth and a half slower than the fastest laps they put down. Granted, though, they're in a little bit of a pack here. They'll get the benefit of draft.
I said Will got held up by Haisong just a little bit. He decided to drop back behind him. Now Wagner's making a charge.
He's going to get the race lead is Wagner. Now he's going to try and jump up to the outside of Jeff Haisong. Not going to be able to get enough of a run there through the center of 3 and 4 and off the corner. But looking at some of these other drivers, they're running about 5 to 6 tenths of a second slower than their fastest lap. Again, I think draft comes into play a lot into those lap times, but Eric Schaus on pit road, and this is a lengthy pit stop for the 72. What's going on here?
It looks like either someone may have been caught for speeding. Oh no, he spun it out of 3 and 4. Spun it out of 3 and 4, ended up hitting the wall at the back of the car, damaged it a little bit, so he pulled down to the pit road and took an unsafe pit entrance just so he could fix the car.
Unsafe pit entrance and took on a fast repair. And I was just about to say, as Will Roberts there into the wall for turn 4, I was just about to say that the evening was definitely turning out in favor of Eric Schaus. Taylor Jordan, multiple laps down, was second in points. Craig Forsyth, not in the field tonight, was third in points. And Jeff Heisong, currently multiple laps down as well, he was fourth in points. So all of his competition not having decent outings here tonight. Perfect opportunity to capitalize, but just like that, landscape's entirely changed because now he's down there in the same vicinity with them. Schaus is 9th, Heisong is 10th, Taylor Jordan is 11th on the leaderboard.
And honestly, as odd as it may seem, I think that was the best move that Schaus could have pulled. Because yes, I mean, he's going to spin the car anyway, but his choice to just take the penalty and go straight in the pit road honestly helps because you don't know how damaged that car is. And again, you have to get back up to speed. It takes about maybe 24-ish seconds to run a single lap around this track. You don't know how damaged your car is. You're just recovering off the spin. Then you got to slow it back down, go through that access road. I'd rather just take my 45 seconds and then go.
Now Wagner trying to become the 5th different winner on the season. He's made a limited number of starts this year. He's run, I believe, 4 of the 6 races that we've had so far this season. Best finish 3rd, and that was back at Phoenix. Looking for yet another podium and looking to get back to victory lane. "45 laps for Matt Wagner. About to complete that 45th lap, as is Will Roberts.
Caution's out.
And the caution is out. Peterson
was...
and Camargo, look out, turn 4. Wow, you had about quartet of drivers flying into that vicinity. The 36 and the 59 have hit hard. I believe the 2 of them were battling for position at the time, just outside of the top 5, but it's our first caution of the evening, and it's around 50 laps to go.
And I wonder if maybe he just got a bit overconfident. He is on newer tires, could run it a bit more aggressively.
Going back to turn 4. Oh, wow, yeah.
I think
maybe Camargo just stepped out there on that inside, and there was just nowhere for Peterson to go.
Yeah, I think Camargo was just kind of digging for everything he could get, and unfortunately, that happens.
That was a close call for a couple of other cars that entered in the vicinity. I think that was Taylor Jordan and Charles Teed were the first ones on the scene. It had the 36 and the 59 sitting right in the middle of the track, so not a whole lot of options to be able to dart and dive to be able to avoid those 2 cars. Here's a look at it again. Watch the 59. He's in trouble right when he enters into the corner, and just no saving that. That's eerily similar to what we had back in the early stages when Will Roberts got a bit slideways, except he didn't go completely around. No chance for Camargo to be able to keep that thing from looping. And again, just the hardship there for Eric Peterson, because I was going to be very curious to see, what kind of strategy he was playing. He had just been on pit road about 14 laps prior, was way off sequence with a lot of the race leaders.
I'm just trying to kind of get... So a caution kind of, it brings it back all the way. So I'm trying to think. We've got 48, 49-ish laps left. We do have a green light checker, I believe 3 green light checkers at our disposal. Our fuel run is about 40, 45, 50-ish.
Yeah, I would say, well, with us bunched up, I think we could put the window back to 50 laps, because that's about what they went when we went green. And so, Roberts and Wagner were about 45 laps into their run just prior to that caution.
What I'm trying to think of here is, do you intentionally kind of stay slow on this initial restart and try and conserve your stuff? Because by the time that it gets to go time, assuming that we don't have another caution, by the time we get to that go period where we really need to start fighting and aggressively racing, we're gonna have low fuel in the tank. So if you still have tires that can hang on and that you could still aggressively push, that could help. Or do you flip flop it and say, hey, I need to get to the front now and then try to stage my defense later?
Hmm. You know,
Because
I feel like we say this just about every week, but this is why I'm glad I'm up in the commentator's booth and not down there in the cockpit of one of these cars or being the crew chief, because, oh, that's too many options.
I'm a little bit more in the boat of I I think the safer option here would definitely be trying to race your way through the pack, try to take the lead, and then play defense for the rest of the race. But the big issue I see with this is partly the fact that you're going to be susceptible to any run that comes behind you. And not only that, but think on top of that, if the guy behind you, hey, he does have fresher tires, let's say he has been saving his stuff a little bit, and that's going to put you at a huge disadvantage because he's going to have the run, he's going to have better grip going into the corner. But again, it's kind of one of those, pick your poisons.
And it's interesting too, because if you think back to a lot of the mile-and-a-half tracks that we broadcasted here for Dark Horse Racing Series, when you're the leader, you kind of pull the Nick DeGroot strategy. Run it right down there on that inside line, force them to go the long way around the racetrack. But you go back to the instant we just had bring out that caution with Najee Camargo. You run too low on the racetrack, there's no guarantee that the back end is going to plant, so you can't really go down there and defend at that lower area of the racetrack. You kind of leave that open for somebody to maybe pull a dive bomb in the closing stages. So, oh boy, be interesting to see what happens here. I believe that Arturo Mayorga was the lucky dog under that caution, so he gets one of his 2 laps back. He'll be the only driver 1 lap down when we go back green. 5 drivers on the lead lap. Will Roberts, Matt Wagner, DL Lemon, Joseph Morales, and Charles Teed. Remember, Teed was out in front battling for the lead in the early stages, kind of fell back after the pit stop, so he's back in the thick of it. Eric Schaus, he took a wave around, so he will now only be 2 laps down in 7th. Haisong 4 laps down in 8th, also a lap down, or 4 laps down, I should say. Eric Peterson in 9th. He obviously took on a faster pair after that incident. Taylor Jordan, last car running in 10th, 6 laps down. Najee Camargo, Sheridan Wade, AJ Hobson, all back in the garage area. Less than 50 laps to go in regulation as Roberts gets us back underway. And some wheel spin there for a couple of drivers up there at the front.
Yeah, it looks like Joseph Morales did not get the power down well, and he kind of struggled. That sent basically everyone from Charles Teed on back a little bit struggling here. But Will Roberts, he took the advantage. He is driving away.
How about DL Lemon? He just put the move on Matt Wagner and shot his way up to the 2nd position. Lemon coming into this race, his best finish, 10th position. He's about to get his best career finish here tonight if he continues running the way he has been.
And like I said, this could be a huge confidence boost for him because he has not had the season to write home about. And again, this is a huge confidence boost, regardless whether it's going to be a win or a really good finish.
Charles Teed moves into 3rd, back up onto the podium, and this is the battle for 4th. Wagner, oh, I was going to say up on the high side, but into the wall high side there. And Joseph Morales was on the inside, but had to give way. Then you got a couple of cars behind that are laps down. We've actually got a battle for position going on here between the 36 of Eric Peterson and the 18 of Jeff Haisong, both 4 laps down. This is for 8th place.
And now we're in the fun position because Teed is about a 2nd back from DL Lemon. He's got really no help with him. If DL Lemon and Will kind of keep to their own single file and they don't battle side by side, realistically, those two could just drive away and they could make the battle just between them. If they do start battling, though, and they do start being side by side, I think that's what's going to end up reeling back in Charles Teed, Matt Wagner, and same thing for Joseph Morales. You're going to end up welcoming them all back into this situation.
Saw Arturo Mayorga back on pit road. He had just pit under that last caution, so this is obviously unscheduled. He had gotten the lucky dog, was the only car 1 lap down, but now going to fall a couple more laps down. That moves Eric Schaus into the free pass position should we get another caution between now and the conclusion, though he is 2 laps down, so a free pass would only put him to 1 lap down. I guess more importantly, that was a position that Eric Schaus picked up, moving from 7th up to 6th. And with how close things are right now on the leaderboard between him and Song and Taylor Jordan, every position matters, whether you're 2 laps down, 3 laps down, 10 laps down, doesn't matter. A position is points.
Absolutely. Again, you just got to end up making the best of your situation that you're in. And again, Eric Schaus, 2 laps down. He is kind of stuck in that situation, but again, you just can't stop fighting because, hey, 2 more cautions come out. Hey, congratulations, you're back on the lead lap. You're back in this game.
You can't make a bad position worse as well if you're the driver of the 72, because right now
There's a
he's
lot
in
more
a
you can
spot where
lose.
he would exactly. He's in a position where he'll gain points. It won't be much, but he'll gain points on the 802 and the 18 heading into next week at Texas. We watched this good battle for 3rd place. Matt Wagner made the pass on Charles Teed. Teed not letting him get away. Going to continue to fight for that final spot on the podium. See him go way up to the outside line. Wagner going to try and hook the bottom and did a pretty good job right there. Car looked pretty steady through the center of the corner, but look at the run that Teed was able to get on the top side down the back straightaway.
So I'm kind of looking at DLM's times, and I think he can get a lot better run than he's letting on. I've noticed him 1 lap cut maybe an 8-second or a 0.8 gap all the way down to 0.5. And then he'll just let it reel back out all the way to about 0.8 again. And then he'll reel it all the way back down to 0.5, and he'll kind of just bouncing around. I don't know if whether he is wanting to go or if he's just kind of iffy at the moment.
Is he maybe doing what you mentioned before we went back green, kind of preserving that tire, making sure he has something for the closing stages? Catch the 31 at a disadvantage in terms of grip.
Well, the good news is, Will's not getting away from Lemon anytime soon. Right now, the only car that is remotely near him is Eric Schaus. He's going through the back straightaway now, and Will's now entering 1. So, they're about half a track apart. I don't think that they're going to end up being close enough. Maybe before the end of this race, we will see. But I just don't think Will has that race. Same thing where...
Sorry.
Oh, no. You're good. But Lemon has that advantage where he has that car in front of him. He can reel him in anytime he wants. He just has to be very careful about it.
I'm going to ask you, has the term larcening ever been used in open wheel racing?
I'm sure someone's coined it, but
That's what Matt Wagner's doing. He's overstepped the cushion a couple of times here in what was a side-by-side battle for about 2.5 laps between himself and Charles Teed. A couple of times, the sparks flaring off the right rear. Oh, now Teed's up into the wall. They're both into the wall. He's into the wall longer, though, and he's going to lose a spot to Joseph Morales. Yeah, those two, that was a pretty spirited battle, and that was for 3rd place.
And I'm just thinking of it here. The big thing I'd really like to kind of shine light on is Homestead is one of those tracks where you can aggressively use a lot of side force. The biggest problem is I actually don't know if side force affects these cars or not, just because they don't really have a side to them.
Watching this battle for the lead, DL Lemon keeping Will Roberts in his sights. Visibly about 3 car lengths down the back straightaway, translates to about 2.5 tenths. Does DL Lemon have anything for Will Roberts? Will looking for his 2nd win on the season. DL Lemon looking for his 1st. It's interesting, when Will took the lead earlier on, I thought to myself, if he does become a 2-time winner, then all 3 of our multi-time winners will have won their 2 races at completely different tracks. J.W. Miller won at Michigan and Phoenix. You can't get any more different than that. Taylor Jordan ended up winning at Pocono and Auto Club. Granted, they're longer tracks, but completely different in the approach. And Will Roberts, if he wins here tonight, he will have won at New Hampshire and Homestead. So there's no consistency in the type of configuration of track where these drivers have been able to get their multiple wins at.
And it's one of those things where it's great, but it also just shows how versatile some of these drivers are. And then, again, just how different and how much these cars kind of cater to different aspects of these tracks. But, I'm kind of looking at DL Lemon here. I think he is holding off till about late in the race because it all really depends on who makes that last move, because it's when you make that move, are you going to leave enough time for that other guy to get back at you?
It's about to get good here at Homestead. Will Roberts trying to hang on for his 2nd win. DL Lemon keeping in touch. Less than 30 laps to go here Under the lights of the Homestead Miami Speedway. We're going to step aside for our final commercial break. We'll bring you to the finish afterwards. You're not missing a thing. We're taking you FRN side by side. The following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flat Out Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. Well, you saw the move, you saw the pass. New leader DL Lemon sized up Will Roberts for a good 10-15 laps, picked his moment, and now he'll go on defense as he takes the lead with less than 20 laps to go.
I don't know about this. I don't exactly agree with this. I would definitely love being the guy who had the option to make the last lap charge and choosing when I want to go, but obviously it looks like Will is struggling a little bit on tires, so maybe this was the right call.
See there, looked like Will pushed up through the center of 1 and 2. Yeah, that might have been the case of thinking maybe I've gotten him to use up his stuff enough that now I feel I've got enough to be able to defend if he makes a charge on me. One thing I've noticed with Will Roberts the entirety of this race, that car really slides up towards the wall off of the corner. That cannot be doing those tires any favor from the entrance to the corner to the center.
Absolutely, and that's the thing of as these cars end up running more and more laps, it's going to start wearing on that right side even more, and I think Will has kind of burnt up that right side trying to stay away from him. But that's the big thing is how much, at what point does those tires really start screaming?
Well, DL Lemon, we mentioned only one top 10 on the season. That was 10th place 2 weeks ago at Auto Club. His other finishes coming into tonight 12th, 15th, 18th, and 25th in the 5 starts that he has made, but this has been a step-out race for him. First time that he's led laps all season. First time that he's been consistently up inside of the top 5 all night. And it's interesting because when we look back at the beginning of this race, we were giving him credit in the fact that he had kept his car clean and other drivers had run into issues. That's not been the case. He's just been naturally fast here tonight.
I mean, that's the thing where he's played his cards right, and I really thought he was making a mistake by passing Will Roberts, but I mean, look at how far he's dropped.
2+ seconds now from Lemon back to Will Roberts. I guarantee you, he may have the last name of Lemon, but the last color he wants to see right now is yellow, because that caution would bring everybody back to his bumper, well, or lack thereof, his gearbox, his rear wing, and he'd have to go back to work of trying to defend not just Will Roberts, but you still got Joseph Morales, Matt Wagner, and Charles Teed on the lead lap. So he wants these 13 laps to be some of the fastest laps of his career.
What you mentioned, that is a bright yellow helmet.
I actually did notice that when I saw the last name Lemon and I saw that, I put 2 and 2 together. So I think there's something in that. I'm trying to think, is there like some lemonade company that he could have been sponsored by? He's got Bitcoin on the car, but I don't know. Kool-Aid I don't think would be a lemonade.
Another wonderful product by Con.
Mike's Hard?
Oh, Mike's Hard Lemonade. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, maybe that.
Yeah, honestly, that would be a really cool. I think I've got an idea for that one. But just looking back,
the reason I chuckle, folks, is whenever Matt says he has an idea, one of 2 things can happen, and usually both things end up being interesting.
Tragedy. Actually, it looks like Will has fallen all the way back to the clutches of Joseph Morales. He got a little bit loose off of 2 after he got passed, and that's kind of plagued him ever since. He's broke off some of the tires, so now it's all the way back where it's the Roberts, Morales, and Wagner show.
Is the only driver in the top 5 that last time by that ran in the 24-second bracket. Everybody else ran in the 23s, the mid-high 23s, 23.7s and 23.8s. So yeah, he has definitely burnt up his stuff. Here you go. Here's the pass for second place under progress. Joseph Morales peeking to the inside, now going to make the move off of turn 4. That's Matt Wagner there, 2 cars back behind Taylor Jordan. He'll look to pounce to get the final spot on the podium if he can get up there to the 31. And I don't think it's outside the possibility with the lap times we're seeing that maybe, just maybe, Will Roberts will drop outside of the top 4. Teed might be able to capitalize as Roberts is into the wall.
Yeah, he's in the fence right now. He's trying to recover it, but it's kind of went from bad to worse for him.
Now the gap 5 seconds from DL Lemon back to new second place driver Joseph Morales. This could be a big night for the 60. Morales came into this race 9th in the point standings. Remember we mentioned Camargo, Morales, Peterson. Those were drivers just outside of the top 5. They need to start putting something together here tonight. And what happened to Morales there? He had a slide off of 4, and all of a sudden his gap back to Matt Wagner closed up by about half. So he may not get this second spot by the close, but still going to look like it'll be a good points night for the 60 car, who coming into this evening, his best finish on the year was a 4th place finish, and that was back in Michigan, and big wreck there for second place, Morales and Wagner, and that is not what DL Lemon wanted to see.
Yeah, Morales just pushed it a little bit too much, and he just wrecked it.
We might be going into one of those overtimes you spoke about earlier. 5 laps away from the conclusion. Let's go back and take a look at it. We saw it
and the
live
big problem
as
with
it
both
happened.
of us, neither Morales nor Wagner can make it back to pit road under their own power.
Man, and that's past the entrance of pit road. Let me see where they ended up coming to rest.
I'm surprised that Morales didn't back it down a little bit earlier, because he almost lost that previous lap. You think?
Yeah.
My whole deal is that previous lap he took it a lot less aggressive, and the back end started to step out. That lap he took it way more aggressive, and obviously the back end stepped out. I'm a little bit fuzzy there.
Looks very similar to what we saw have happened earlier tonight with Najee Camargo. The only difference was Camargo was on fresh tires. Morales was on over 40 lap old tires. I think that car might have actually, front wing might have gotten lodged in the barrels there,
It did. It
protecting
did.
the entrance to pit wall.
It was just enough where it got it lodged in the pit wall, and then Wagner broke one of his rear tires, so it didn't end up going. I don't agree with the call from DLM. I would have went for tires. I think new tires are way more valuable here. I don't know if I could have. That's an interesting one.
Charles Teed, Will Roberts. They came to pit road, put on some fresh Firestones.
I don't know.
I'm with you, especially with the fact there are only 3 cars on the lead lap here for this finish. Eric Schaus gets the lucky dog, but he's still 1 lap down. You mentioned about the fact that Wagner and Morales, they both had to call the tows back to pit road, so they are going to be multiple laps down when we go back green. He would have still had the track position on both Teed and Roberts, so he may have given this victory away. I'm with you.
I said I don't know. I really don't know, because it's a weird one, because I would think I would want it, but again, that lead, we saw how big of a gap that Wagner got out to. Sorry, not Wagner. That Roberts got out to originally, being the leader. I wonder if he's thinking he can do that same thing, and he can kind of drive away. We're at green white. I imagine we're going to go green with either one to go, or we're going to be in the green white checkered scenario. I don't know.
Could that be the thing? Could we maybe go green with 1 lap? He would have to defend, get a decent enough restart, and you really don't have to fend off any challenges. If it's a green-white checkered that these drivers are going to have to make, then I think he's a sitting duck, but maybe just that 1 lap is enough for him to be able to keep the fresh tires at bay since he's the control car?
That's my guess, is that, hey, being the leader is a lot more valuable than having tires, so it's going to be a wait and see scenario.
45 lap older tires for DL Lemon. Charles Teed and Will Roberts both taking on fresh tires, and they're the 3 that are going to settle this thing out. Because to your point, it looks like we are going to finish this race in regulation. Leave the lights will go out atop the iRacing pace car. This time by, it will be a 1-lap shootout here at Homestead.
Oh! I think he was trying to do a practice restart. I think he was trying to practice his restart, and he ended up spinning the tires.
Oh my gosh. And that adds another... Well, no, it doesn't add another lap of caution. Now it looks like we are actually going to go into a green-white checker here. Wow.
Yeah, I think he was trying to practice his restart for that, and he expected there to be more grip than there was, and unfortunately he ended up spinning it into the inside wall. He actually does not have a fast repair left.
No, he does not. He used his fast repair back during the first round of green flag pit stops.
So by that extension, that puts Charles Teed into our race lead.
Charles Teed started the race from the outside of the front row, spent the first 50 laps in contention for the race lead. It's been a long time since Charles Teed is going to victory lane here under the Dark Horse Racing banner. I can't recall which season. I want to say maybe either season 3 or 4. It was at Iowa. I know that was the track. And a long winless streak for this driver. Let's see if he can hold off Will Roberts here for these final 2 laps.
And Will got a great restart.
To the inside, going to complete the pass.
You know, I'm thinking that was intentional.
It might have been. Wants to be the hunter rather than the hunted, does Teed?
Yeah, I think I'd rather have the jump. I guess he maybe thought he wasn't going to get a good enough restart so he could go.
Almost got into the back of Will Roberts there. Oh, Will's into the wall. A lot of momentum lost there. Teed with a full head of steam. He goes to the top. White flag in the air.
He's going to get the advantage on the exit on top. It just depends whether
Roberts pushed up. That's all she wrote, I think, right there. No
Yeah.
momentum for the 31 down the back straightaway. Huge gap for Teed.
Yeah, I think Teed basically has to walk this one home.
Charles Teed. First win on the
My
season here in
goodness.
the Fart NDCar Series. What a great move there. He almost Shane Van Gisbergened Will Roberts there. Literally was Van Gisbergen to Haley. You want the spot? All right, take it. Then I'll cross you over later on.
And the best part out of that, DL Lemon still got a P3 by limping
Yes, he
the injured
did.
car around.
Limped
So
that car around, no front wing, still gets a podium, his best finish of his career.
I mean, it's going to sting. Let's say that stings in any situation, being that close to it. But hey, just being able to salvage that is impressive.
The winless streak is over for Charles Teed, and Charles Teed, he's another guy you gotta look at here late in the season, making a charge potentially for that championship. He was 5th in points coming tonight, 54 points out. Schaus and Jordan and Highsong all having issues tonight. Forsyth not in the field. Going to be a big points night for driver number 5 and put him right back into the conversation for the points lead when we get to Texas next week.
That's it, just that little bit. And that gets, like I said, that gets him right back in it. And look at Eric Schaus. Eric Schaus comes away with a P4 after everything that happened. That's impressive.
That is very impressive. He was down as far as 10th position after he had his issue spinning off at turn 4 and having the unsafe pit entry penalty. Able to battle back, only car 1 lap down, but inside of the top 5. Joseph Morales and Matt Wagner, we saw the two of them get together in what was then a battle for second, but they're still going to get decent results here tonight, albeit 2 laps down in 5th and 6th. Eric Peterson, Jeff Highsong, pretty much everybody else on down, 7th place on down, had issues in some way, shape, or form, whether it be on-track incidents, getting the wall, having to make unscheduled pit stops. In the case of Taylor Jordan, it was internet connection problems here tonight. He was the last driver to finish, and then the remaining 3 drivers, Camargo, Wade, and Hobson, finished this race back in the garage area. But for DL Lemon, his first career podium finish. For Charles Teed, his first finish on the winner's podium here this season in this series. And for Will Roberts, another good performance for him, another driver that I think could be back in the conversation for this championship after he came into this race 6th in points, had lost 3 spots in the standings after Auto Club last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. So kind of stop the bleeding there. Let's see if we can dial up our podium finishers, get their opinion of what they had to deal with here tonight, the slipping and sliding at Homestead. We were going to try and see if we could dial up Lemon, but it doesn't look like he is available. Maybe we'll be able to get him before the conclusion of the broadcast. So let's leapfrog, if we can, to our 2nd place finisher here tonight, Will Roberts. Hey, Will, it's Matthew and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got y'all. How y'all doing tonight?
I'll tell you what, we had a blast up here tonight watching you guys try and take to this racetrack. Didn't look like there was very much optimal grip for you guys, whether it was in the early going or in the late going. A lot of slipping and sliding around. How difficult was it to tackle this racetrack here tonight?
It was fine for about 20 laps, and then it turned into a sprint car. I got way more experience with that than I really wanted to, but it was a fun experience.
So I've got to ask. I mean, you were fighting in that huge pack, then you guys got all separated via pit stops, and you were fighting Wagner for a little bit. Then Koch came out, that went away, and then you started fighting Lemon a little bit, and that was going all great until another caution came out, and then suddenly you're not fighting Lemon anymore, you're fighting Teed. I mean, how was your night?
It was fun. It was good. I felt like I could maybe start to squeak away there the first bit, because I was 4th or 5th all the way through, I think, the first caution or first pit stop, and come out. I'm 3 seconds ahead of Wagner. I'm like, okay, let me try and put the power down, and I squeezed out another 2 seconds, but then I wasn't ready, because the whole first run it felt fine, but I was in dirty air. So first bit with clean air, and it went from handling just fine. All of a sudden, I go into 3, and the whole rear end steps around, and I kick a fat drift, and that pretty much ate away my whole lead right there. Had another one a couple laps later, wasn't as bad. But no, it was good. The variety was great. Had a lot of interesting moments myself, and it sounded like further back in the pack as well. But no, it was awesome.
Let's go to that final restart. You were lined up in the 3rd position. We saw the issue for the 0-8, so then you're lined up in 2nd place. Green-white checker, 2-lap shootout. You could kind of go back, rewind it back, do maybe anything different. What would you have done? Could you have kept that 5 in your rearview mirror?
5 just eased it back onto the power a little bit there on the white flag, or on the 2 to go lap. I sent it in a little too hard. Wanted to try and hold a little bit of a gap so he couldn't just slingshot back by me into 1. So I felt like if I could get to where he couldn't just slingshot back to my inside, I'd have had it 1. But I just held the throttle a little long, got up in the outside wall, and that was kind of all she wrote. Steering was bent from there.
Well, Will, a great run for you here tonight. A nice comeback after the hardship of Auto Club a couple of weeks ago. Put you back up into that conversation for the championship, and some good momentum heading into yet another 1.5 miles next week at Texas. So congratulations on the performance tonight. Before we let you go, the floor is yours to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to thank Eric, Charlie, AJ, everybody that helps put this on. My wife, Brett, for always supporting me, and I want to thank y'all for coming out and broadcasting this.
Will Roberts, 2nd place here tonight under the lights at Homestead. He'll look to carry this momentum into the remainder of the season. Congratulations on the great run. Good luck next week at Texas.
Thank y'all.
And let's see if we can go down to Victory Lane. Let's see if we can dial up tonight's race winner, Charles T. Charles, Matthew, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do. Man, it's been a while. I forgot what you guys sound like.
It has been a while. We mentioned that your last victory here in the Dark Horse Racing banner back at Iowa, multiple seasons back during the Dark Horse Racing Series. Good to see you back in Victory Lane, but interesting road to get there here tonight.
Holy
Strong
cow.
in the early going. We saw the double and 3-wide crossovers going on in the early stages. You were right in the thick of that. Kind of faded back after the green flag pit stops, but one thing that I noticed, you were consistently up inside of the top 5, so it looked like this thing was fast from start to finish.
It was fast. It was really more that I kept screwing up by overdriving it at the beginning of the runs, where the smarter drivers in the field were saving their tires. So it put me at a disadvantage in the last 15 laps or so. But after the first stop, or before the first stop, I nearly lost it and fell back like 6 seconds. So then I had to drive really hard the second stint, which burned my tires down. So it was really pretty much, I made my own bet. I was very fortunate about that last caution. DL had the field covered. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him there. If he was trying to heat the tires, I don't know if you guys saw, or I just saw him. I was talking and he smacked the wall coming to take the green-white checkered.
What looks like happened was DL was actually trying to do a practice restart. Had it in second, slammed the gas, and it just ended up stepping out on him. Now, I got to ask you, I mean, you're in second place. You saw the leader just die on lap 149. I mean, congratulations, you're now leader. It's, what next?
Well, I was good with that, other than the fact that I knew Will is really good on these starts. I light the tires too much on the restarts, and he took total advantage of them, but I drafted right back up to him. He made a little mistake off of 4, and thankfully, he didn't do what Wagner and I kept doing to each other, which was pinch the hell out of each other once we made a mistake. He kind of owned it and knew, because I wasn't going to lift, and I would have wrecked us both on the front straight away. But he stayed. I mean, it was coming to take the white flag.
I mean, I can't blame you. Although it would have, I think DL would have loved it if both of you guys just demolished it.
And he putted around to a W.
He did finish on the lead lap.
That's fantastic. Good for him. I feel bad for him because he had a really fast car. I did early on. I love a loose set. This thing was frighteningly loose, with the fact that you can go almost 250 miles an hour down the straightaway here, like Shirley Maldani in a dragster, and then with loose halfway through the run, it was bananas to drive. But it was a lot of fun.
So Matt Rod and I, we were kind of trying to do our best to kind of describe what we thought you drivers were dealing with. We heard from Will just moments ago, and we heard you just mention tires were the key here tonight. What was it that was going on with these tires here tonight that was causing you guys to slip and slide around? Was it the tire heat that was building up? Was it just the tire wear with the speed you guys were carrying? What was the determining factor in wearing these tires down?
The correct answer is yes. It was all of those things. I mean, it's going 215 miles an hour, cornering at such a high rate, putting such a load on the tires. So one stint, there was guys that had 16% left on their right front. I never got below 40. I tried to take it easy on the tires, except when you're racing wheel to wheel with someone, that's out the window. So I feel like Matt and I, Wagner, raced wheel to wheel for probably 50 laps of the race. And we're in the same Discord, so both of us were cheeks puckered, but it was all of the above to wear them out, which is good. It makes the racing better rather than in past series where it's just mash and turn left. This is absolutely not that. This is more like a 250-pound stock car that you have to manage the tires. Otherwise, at the end of the run, you're going to come right back to the field. You notice that with Will. Will had a giant lead in one of the stints and got sideways twice. And it's forgiving enough that if you just get out of the throttle, it'll just power slide and eat 20% of your right rear. But it won't come all the way around. I saw Hobson have a couple in front of me, and there was also one, I think, with Morales near the end. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Now, your season didn't get started off on the best foot, but in the last 4 starts you've made, you've had 3 finishes up inside of the top 5, including the win here tonight, and all 4 of those finishes inside of the top 10. A heck of a time to get hot here with some interesting races coming up on this home stretch. You were 54 points out, 5th in the standings coming into tonight. This is certainly going to put you up there in that championship conversation. So what's the confidence level now with this victory heading into these final 5 or 6 races of the season?
It's wide open. I feel very good about it. I mean, I will say Jordan is unbelievably fast. I think he's done really well. And JW ran with us early in the year. Very quick in these cars. I'm kind of learning on the fly, as is Schaus, as is Wagner, as is Peterson. So I think, I don't know if he's updated the standings yet. He was working on it. Peterson was right now. So as soon as they're ready, I think it'll be really, really interesting here to see where we all lie. But yeah, it looks like I'm now in second place, 36 points behind Eric Schaus. So it'll be wide open. Will's right there. It's going to come down to being consistent. Craig missed a race, so that'll hurt him, but 2 wins and he'll be right back in it. It's wide open. It's going to be a lot of fun. We need more cars, so anyone that's watching wants to come around with us, we can use a couple more cars. I know we're down 3 or 4 guys that usually run with us with holidays and things going on, but want to get this car comp back up to at least 18. 18 is a really good number for as big as these cars are.
Well, with a victory here tonight at Homestead in the last 2 races, Charles Teed has climbed up 5 spots in the standings. You heard it right there. Second in points, 36 points out, heading into Texas with a lot of momentum. Congratulations on the victory here tonight, Charles. Before we let you get back to your celebrating, though, we're going to give it the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Really just want to thank both of you guys. You guys are fantastic. You're pretty much the voice of our series, and you have been for a long time. So really, really appreciate you guys. Want to thank Jim Herrick's company, 40 Racewear. Awesome job by them. And Eric Peterson for helping to run this league, along with several other folks that work along in the background with us. But really want to thank you guys. I'm not sure how exciting this one was to watch with only 11 cars or 12 cars, but I think it got pretty dicey at different points in the race. So it sure was in my seat.
He started second, brings it home P1 here tonight. First win on the season, the NDCar Series for Charles Teed. Congratulations once again. Go enjoy this victory, and we look forward to seeing you go right back at it and try and keep the consistent run up next week at Texas.
Thanks, boys. You guys have a good night.
So as Charles Teed celebrates his victory here this evening in southern Florida, that brings our coverage to a close here tonight at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Going to have a little bit of a string of 1.5-mile races here, Matt, as we got Texas coming up next week, but then it starts to get interesting as we get closer towards the end of the season.
Absolutely. And like I said, we get onto an interesting string of tracks here coming up. So if you're following along at home, we go on to the wonderful world of Texas. I don't think anyone has any problems with Texas, right?
Well,
Everyone
some do,
loves
some don't.
Texas. Everything great happens in Texas. Then we get on to Gateway. Then we go into the high banks of Daytona, if I didn't forget anything. Then we go on to Kentucky, and then we go on to the Indy 200.
Longest race of the season.
I don't think we can call it the Indy 5. I think we get a nice letter from Roger Penske if we do that.
Yeah. How many kilometers is that? Can we call it whatever the kilometers is?
I think it's like a 1K. I don't. Gotta ask Scott.
But yeah, gonna be really interesting to see. I mean, tonight, we could look back at Homestead as the turning point potentially of the season. Teed now putting himself up into that conversation. Will Roberts back in that conversation, and some of the drivers that we saw coming into tonight that were looking like they were going to have a stranglehold of the top 3 or 4 spots in the battle for the championship in the first half of the season, running into some issues. So it's going to be interesting to see with some of those wild card tracks coming up as well, who is going to be the one to quell those areas and be able to eventually be in that conversation, close out the deal at Indianapolis. But next week, it's going to be Texas Motor Speedway, where these drivers will take to. It is the second, I believe, second of the 1.5-mile tracks that they will tackle here this season. And we'll see if the consistency keeps up there for Charles Teed, or can Eric Schaus or Jeff Heisong, Taylor Jordan, drivers that have been consistently up inside the top 3, can they get back into winner's circle? Hope you guys will join us for that. That'll be next Sunday night. Green flag will be scheduled to fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Matt, it's been a crazy one here tonight. A lot of twists and turns. It was kind of one of those you had to stick around at the end to see what happened, because a couple of unexpected things happening in those final 50 laps or so. I appreciate you joining up here in the booth for it.
It's never a dull moment.
Absolutely not. So that means next week could be just as interesting. We hope that you guys will join us for that. Thank you once again for joining us here on your Sunday evening. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.